Um, no.
Well, this is the cloud. Hello, people jumping in. We will wait just a moment, but we'll kick it off really quickly to maximize everyone's time. But for those that are jumping in, I do see some familiar names on our list. You are in the webinar Teaching AI from UB Tech Education. So great. Excellent. So we'll go ahead and just jump in or kick it off. If you guys would feel free to jump, say hi in the chat or drop any questions that you may have for us in the Q&A or chat. Along the way, we'll try to answer any questions you guys may have, but feel free to introduce yourself, tell us where you're from, and what you guys do. So as always, we strongly encourage you guys to connect with us. You can see all of our social handles on the screen: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can also, if you have any questions, you can always email us directly at info@ubtecheducation.com. And a lot of those questions can probably be answered from our website, ubtecheducation.com. So there are a lot of ways to connect with us. Please do. We really like your feedback. We like seeing what you guys do and the questions you ask on social. So don't be afraid. Don't be shy. Please reach out.
Hey, Rusty, it looks like chat is disabled.
Okay.
And I don't have access to changing that on my side. So just so you know, no one can tell us where they're from or what they're doing.
Oh, that's too bad, but it looks like I don't think I can enable it either.
No. You still can't ask questions. Yes. Zian said you can still type in the Q&A. You just can't put anything in the chat. So
let's see, maybe try now. I just changed the settings.
There we go. Yay, chat works.
Well, there's always something to improve on and learn. So thanks for thanks for bring that to our attention. And yeah, feel free, you guys can drop in your chats and introduce yourselves. Hey, Brian, we know Brian. Brian's one of our teacher ambassadors. Thanks for joining. Excellent. Great. So for those of you that are joining our webinars for the first time, we do like to introduce ourselves, of course. You can see my image on the screen. My name is Rusty and I am the acting education product manager for UB Tech Education. You can also email me. I'm throwing my email on the screen, rusty.nye@ubtecheducation.com. So if there are any questions you have directly for me, I deal with all of our products as well as our professional development. So please reach out to me. I also put in my LinkedIn handle below my email. So feel free. I love people connecting with me on LinkedIn. Please do so. And I'll toss it over to my colleague, Kristina, which she can introduce herself.
This is a much longer introduction than I'm used to. Sorry. So my name is Kristina Davis, educational specialist here at UB Tech Education. Email also on the slide. If you are watching this recorded after Wednesday, March 15th, and you want a copy of the slides that I'm going to share in the chat here in a little bit, just email me and I can send you the link for those. So they have all the activities on them. So make sure you reach out for that. Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter and LinkedIn. Like Rusty said, we love to see what you guys are doing. We love to touch base with teachers across the country. Feel free to reach out, let us know where you're at and what you're doing.
Great.
All right, is this one me? I already forgot what ones I'm in charge of. Okay. So a little bit about what we're going to be doing today. So we'll give you a super quick one slide introduction on who UB Tech Education is, just in case you're new to us. Then Rusty's going to talk about what is AI and why AI now. Then we're going to go kind of back and forth here. We're going to do AI Foundations for K-12, which is our curriculum for AI. We're going to talk about the 5 big ideas, which is what our AI Foundations is. is created around. And then we're going to go back and forth with activities from our foundational curriculum with real world connection. So Rusty and I will tag team that one. And then we'll go over, we did put Q&A, but with that, we also have just 5 easy steps or whatever, 5 thoughts on how to get started with teaching AI. So we'll touch base on that as well. But as you can tell, if you have questions as you go on throughout this, please type them in the Q&A, type them in the chat. We don't care. Reach out. One of us is watching it usually for the most part during this. If it is a question that we can answer with that slide, we'll answer it at that time. If it's a question we feel would be better for the end, we will save it for the end. So just know if we don't address it right away, we will get to it. But we're very excited to have you all on. And let's get started with the introduction to UB Tech education. All right, so if you guys don't know anything about us, we are all about robots, STEM, computational literacy, 21st century skills, AI, computer science, all this good stuff. So check out our website if you've never been to us before, ubtecheducation.com. Hopefully you all have been to register for this webinar, but I know some people go through LinkedIn to sign in. So do check us out. We've got UKITs, which are a great classroom solution. And then we have AI Foundations as a separate curriculum on top of that. All right, Rusty.
Excellent. So I'll introduce you guys to what we mean by AI. So AI, is a term that is always being thrown around a lot now. And some people may be a little apprehensive of diving into AI or, trying to incorporate that into their, study computer science courses. But we do like to start, at the very beginning. So how can we take this term AI or artificial intelligence and simplify it into a digestible definition where students can really pick apart what we mean by that? So kind of the working definition that we and a lot of computer scientists and educators utilize is artificial intelligence is this umbrella term for computers, software, or other computer-controlled devices to imitate intelligent human behavior. So in other words, AI can be simplified into a way that computers can do things that previously only humans could do. With that being said, when you do a Google image search for AI, these are the type of images that pop up. I'll ask everyone here, are these images relatable? Is this a good representation of AI? And yeah, feel free if you guys want to respond in the chat. What do you guys think? Is this a good representation of artificial intelligence? You guys are being quiet, but I'm going to take that as your response is no, because this is so far-fetched, and this is more aligned to a science fiction film than a real application of artificial intelligence. In fact, if we are looking for actual examples of AI, we can really look around our house. We can look around to everyday objects that we may interact with. Here's a few examples of ways that we can interact with AI daily through the uses of our smartphones, your iPhone, your Android phone, etc. All leverage AI algorithms and AI in some way. Streaming services like Netflix, Amazon, or Apple TV Plus rely on AI to provide you recommendations. And also, of course, the way we navigate around our cities now, utilizing our smartphones, those are all using real-time AI machine learning models to get you to where you need to go. So I like to start here when we're talking about AI, because AI is something that we interact with on a daily basis, most of us. However, when you start thinking about and teaching AI, you often interact with these really, daunting and strange science, sci-fi approaches to AI, which are just not realistic. With that being said, why would we want to start integrating and teaching AI, even, to a younger audience, say, in the elementary or even middle school space? Well, to kind of, preface it in a way that, connects back to these common applications of AI, Whether we realize it or not, the majority of us interact with AI daily. It is constantly more and more going to be ingrained with our society. A lot of us probably understand where we are in terms of utilizing technology, as a society, but a lot of us do acknowledge us as being within the fourth industrial revolution, where the third industrial revolution is more, the dawn of computer science and, interacting with different sorts of technology. Within the fourth industrial revolution, this is when we're really utilizing and using that technology to advance more technology. So the use of AI, IoT, self-driving vehicles, especially really big in nanotechnology, biotechnology. These are all emerging technologies that are going to continually advance our civilizations. With that being said, why is this happening now? Why is this a discussion that we need to have? What we would really point to is this continued acceleration. So AI, yes, it is part of our lives, but it's only going to become more and more a part of our lives. And that's because of these really big tech advances with hardware, particularly GPUs, graphic processing units, access to data, so data sources and open source models, bigger advances in sensor integration, and also these uses of all of these systems working together through an IoT system. With that being said, a lot of school systems are also looking to incorporate AI into common standards, computer science standards. These are something that are going to be more and more implemented as these emerging technologies become more practical and more utilized. So it's a good time to start thinking about how we can educate our youth with AI. And with that being said, we have developed a nice foundational curriculum. So Kristina, do you want to introduce us to AI Foundations?
Yes. So our AI Foundations, which we'll go a little more in detail on the next slide, is vertically aligned. So it's a K-12 offering. It's broken out into grade levels that you'll see on the next slide, but do know that it brings in not only foundational artificial intelligence concepts, but also computer science. So like Rusty said, a lot of those schools that are working kind of ahead of everyone else getting that stuff aligned, some of them are slipping AI standards in with computer science because it's just a natural fit. So let's go on to that next slide and we'll kind of look at the breakdown. All right, so we break it down into 4 grade ranges. So we've got K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, 9, 12. Of each of these grade bands, you get 2 units per grade band. So it'll be like K2 Unit 1, K2 Unit 2. You don't necessarily need to do them in grade band order. So if I was teaching 6-8, but I needed to start with the K2 concepts, you could certainly do that. But you do need to go in unit order. So don't teach Unit 2 and then go back to Unit 1 because Unit 2 does build on Unit 1. Each unit consists of 5 lessons, so you get 10 lessons per grade band, and we'll talk about how those are broken up on the next slide. For a total, if you did all of our K-12 curriculum, you would get 106 to 146 hours of content, which is fantastic. A good offering, I feel, at the beginning, right, of AI. And then do know that our curriculum is also not tech dependent, meaning you do not need our U-Kits to teach the curriculum. All of the curriculum encompasses either resources you have in the classroom, like paper, crayons, those types of things, or it utilizes free online resources and online activities. So do know that you do need some tech, you just don't need our tech to do these activities. So anything I missed, Rusty?
No, I think you covered it.
Okay, so our curriculum is all based on the 5 big ideas in AI education, which was created, by AI4K12.org. So if you've never heard of them before, please go to their website. You can check out what they've been working on. But they have 5 big ideas that they feel are the most widely referenced and used and should be known of AI. So we've got perception, representation and reasoning, learning, natural interaction, societal impact. So each one of those units that I told you about has one lesson, which is not just one activity. It's one lesson per each of the 5 big ideas. So you get 5 lessons total. Our lessons are centered around the 5E lesson plan. So you get each of the 5Es, and usually within each of those 5Es, you also have activities or assessments. So it's a lot going on within a guide. It's not just like a one-day throw out 45-minute lesson plan. They do cover quite a bit of time and quite a bit of range with the activities and the concepts that are in there. So if you have any questions on the AI curriculum, let me know.
And also to kind of expand on teaching the 5 big ideas, kind of the overarching also the thought from AI for K-12 is to teach these big ideas in succession, with each one kind of adding to a larger picture of how to understand, how to identify, and hopefully how to utilize AI. So kind of when a student wraps their head around how all these 5 big ideas fit together, they really are able to have a really strong and broad understanding of artificial intelligence and how it interacts with us as a community.
For sure. Yeah.
Excellent. And another really important part of AI is connecting these to real world applications, which we're so lucky to be living in a time where so many different industries are leveraging AI to advance their businesses. So really trying to make AI relatable to students is something that is, one, very easy, and is two, very and engaging for students. Some of the biggest industries to leverage AI applications, kind of fit into, some of these 6 different areas, that being transportation, entertainment, home goods, manufacturing, social media, and of course, shopping as well, all leverage AI in some way or another. That can be made very accessible and relatable to students. And so kind of moving on from here, Kristina will kind of walk you through different aspects from our curriculum, and I'll try to make those real world connections more applicable and kind of weave the big idea through how we can connect that to something that students can actually think about in terms of the real world.
Perfect. All right, so I will tell you there are at least 2, sometimes 3 slides per the curriculum portion I'm going to talk to you about. I've taken all those out and put them in a separate slide deck. So that's the link I just put in the chat. You can make a copy of that deck, and then that way you can click through all the links that we're not going to get to today, but at least you have access to them afterwards. And if anything doesn't work, let me know, but you're welcome to click through and use that as well. So, okay, so we're talking about perception, big idea number 1, right? This example comes from our grade 6 through 8 unit 2 guide. So just so you know where to find it if you are using our curriculum. The main question, the driving question for this is, how do computers gather and send out data? And so we're really going to dive into binary code, bitmaps, how do computers see the world, right? What do they do? So the learning goal specifically for this activity that I'm going to talk to you about is examine computer perception through binary code and bitmaps, and then identify the role that binary code plays in computer data input and output. So that's just the general idea. Remember that our lessons encompass the 5Es. So this is just one chunk of that big 5E lesson. All right, so this activity is all about bitmaps and binary, like I said. So if you're not familiar with bitmap, there is a little example of on and off, black and white, little boxes, right? So you're going to start by showing a video. Code.org has a fantastic video on how computers work, binary and data. It ties it in binary with art and math, and I'm trying to think of what else they talk about in there, but it's a lot of fun. It's a fun video to watch and fairly short, so you can show that first, and then using what they know from the video, have them create an emoji using the pixel art widget. So if you click on that, once you click on the slides, click on the web page there, it's pixel art. Oh, that's the one I clicked down before. So pixel art was the graph paper. This one, I'm trying to think of the website name now. I can't think of it, but you scroll down halfway through the page and there's just a bitmap there that they can start creating. And as it creates it, as you click ones or zeros, it will bring up the binary code for each line. So it gives us students an opportunity to see the visual correlation between when it's on and off and what number that goes with. And so then once you have them create that either online one, or if you wanted to do a paper and pencil one, you certainly could do that too. But once you get done with that, you can start asking them questions like, If you did an emoji for the computer and the computer recognized the binary of that emoji, does the computer also understand the emotion that goes behind the emoji? Probably not, right? It's just seeing, oh, it's a happy face, it means happy, but the computer doesn't know what happy means. It just can show you other things that represent happy, right? So talking about how the data is collected and what that data means. And then you can extend it by either giving them graph paper and having them create their own pixelated art, or you can go to pixel art right there and they can do larger bitmap images, or you could just expand on the binary code, and there's all sorts of things that you can do with binary. I've seen bracelets, I've seen, Rusty, what do you got? Any other? I'm trying to think what else I've seen with binary code.
Thinking of the larger natural images, like the one we made working with Maker Maven, where we made the big
yes.
dog.
Yes.
Yeah, like taking images from your biology class basically, and then recreating those through a bitmap to represent something much larger.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you can really expand on this. Like in the video, they talk about art connections. So how each pixel is a color and how each color is represented by numbers. And then you can you could go off so many directions with this one, but this was just a little start to get them going in the grade 6 to 8 unit. So that's what I got there. Rusty's going to give you real life connections now on the next page.
Yeah. And to connect this big idea and different elements that Kristina touched on to the real world and to exciting uses of AI and AI applications, one of the best, the shining star example of AI being used for a very advanced technology is the idea of autonomous vehicles, self-driving cars. To be very honest, of course, this technology can easily connect. You can weave in the connections to the 5 big ideas directly. Excuse me. However, if we're just focusing on this idea of perception, this is a tremendous example to leverage and to tie in, because a self-driving car utilizes many different types of sensors all working together to paint this vivid picture of the surroundings. So utilizing LiDAR technology, IR technology, cameras, all different types of interactions or sensors working together around a car. The self-driving cars can actually create a very detailed image or representation of their surroundings in order to not hit someone or not hit another vehicle. So it's a very important use of this type of technology, and something that really shines the light on this big idea of perception, because they are really perceiving their environment in a literal life or death situation. So this, of course, as I mentioned, can be brought up to all 5 big ideas, but this one really stands out to me as a really great place to start to tie in that idea of perception.
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Yes, and we're not going to talk about it today, but we do have a whole lesson around self-driving cars.
Yep.
Pretty sure it's in the 912. I had to think of I don't remember which unit, but I'm pretty sure it's 912.
I think so.
Okay, next big idea, representation and reasoning. So this example is from our grades K-12, K2, not K-12, goodness, K2 Unit 2 guide. And so think about our last grade level, right, 6-8. So K2 is going to take it a little bit simpler, right, a little bit easier of a topic to talk about. So we're talking about how do computers use models like decision trees to make decisions. So in this next activity, students are going to work on using identifiable attributes of animals, right, because they're familiar with animals. And they're just going to work on creating yes or no questions, right, because that's kind of the stuff that computers use. Like they need to know what's the right answer, what's the wrong answer, how do I workflow this, right? Like different ways that you can use decision trees. Then oh my goodness, what a rough day here. These skills are then put to the test as students learn about and create decision trees. So the example I'm going to give you, and this is probably a good disclaimer, the example I'm going to give you is not the example I wanted to share. And so I should tell you, if you are using our AI Foundations curriculum, just like with all technology, right, as we were going through and finding activities, we went, oh no, some of these links no longer work. So if you're familiar with Google Experiments, if you've used any of Google Experiments, Mystery Animal was the one that was originally slated for this activity. Mystery Animal, they've shut down, which is very sad because it's a great activity and students loved it, but it was pretty much like a 20 questions of trying to guess the animal. So that's where this all came from. So I do have another activity in here to replace that, but just know if you get in there and something doesn't work because they've shut down the website or whatnot, let us know because we're not clicking through these every day. So any help is appreciated, but like with all good technology, everything has to update. So we will also be updating these guides. Anyway, so going on to the next slide, the activity is really just getting students to talk about their animal. What's their favorite animal? Why is it their favorite? And this is all written to do as a whole class. If you want to do it small group or differently, you sure could. But so as students are sharing their favorite animal, you're compiling a list of favorite animals, right? So now you've got a whole list. And then you're going to pick one, or if you want to vote on one, or however you want to do that, pick one animal and you create a web, right, of all the different attributes of that animal. So it has wings, it eats worms, it does this, it has feet, it lives here, however detailed you want to get. So then you're going to use those attributes, and that's how you make these questions, right? So you could turn to, like, if you have an animal that has wings that flies, you can change that into does it fly, or does it have feathers, does it live in the ocean, does it eat worms, does it, I don't know, does it have a spine, all sorts of things, right? Come up with all sorts of questions. And then originally you would have used these with mystery animal as because you have to guess what the animal the computer is thinking. So you could have students play 20 questions and they have to guess the animal if you want to do that instead. Or you can take these questions, and on the next slide, we're going to show you how you can make it into a decision tree. So this is one that I put the images up. This is straight from our guide. So you can create your own, you can use ours, whatever you want to do. So the students came up, here are your animals on the right? They came up with the questions. So I put in the questions, and then as you work through this decision tree, you have to decide which animal goes in which spot, right? So does it live in water, yes or no? Then you divvy it out. So like the first one on the left, does it have a shell? If it's yes, well, there you go. Now we've got the sea turtle. If it's no, then you've got two more that you have to figure out what goes with it. So not really making a decision here, but getting them to understand the hierarchy of the tree. If you wanted to do, if you want to take this another step further for a decision, you could be like, you can make it weather dependent on like, what do you wear when you go outside if it's raining, you know, and so you can change this up into any topic that the students are familiar with. But we went with animals because in K2, they learn all sorts of things about animals. So just getting them started on getting comfortable with what a decision tree looks like, yes or no questions. So a lot of ELA topics going in here too, and discussions in science. But yeah, so there's one example of representation and reasoning.
And I love utilizing decision trees with students. I think it's a really fun way to, you know, think through logic structures through a fun pattern and find different patterns in things, and kind of thinking through how we can relate this and make this to these larger AI applications. This larger idea, though, is also utilized, you know, to teach basic computer science, of course, but it's also being, you know, utilized for these much larger uses in AI applications. Particularly a great example that I like to cite is this idea of recommender systems. A lot of you may have seen that I flashed AI when I flashed Netflix when I touched on AI at the beginning. And you might think, you know, how is AI being utilized and leveraged to show me, you know, my favorite video? But how it got to showing you that favorite video is the method of leveraging different, you know, AI applications. So this is a particular algorithm that is based on your interaction with the software that's being changed and learning it's learning and catering to your particular habits. So some people may think that's, you know, kind of scary, but it's actually very smart, and it's actually a very interesting usage of technology. So though it can be broken down in very simple terms. And I love Homer kind of explaining in this image here, if he's, buying the Duff beer, he may be, also interested in a Duff t-shirt. So then the system would think that maybe we should recommend that to Homer, and he probably would buy that. So that simplified decision tree and that algorithm is being utilized by all these different companies to show you advertisements, to recommend different things, and hopefully lead you to advertising and different material that is suited particularly to you. And we'll kind of touch on, how this is advancing with a learning algorithm. And, the more you interact with a system, the higher those chances of you, actually are giving you something that you actually want to see or interact with, are keep increasing. So really fun stuff. And I love kind of also touching on this recommender system idea, because this, of course, is very kid topical. Most kids nowadays have interacted with some sort of recommendation system, whether they want to or not. But it also, is something that is good. And also, you can also tie back into, the societal ramifications that it may have as well. But we'll touch on that in a moment.
All right, going on to learning. So this example is from grade 6-8, unit 2. So how do deep learning and neural networks take machine learning to the next level? So in unit 1, they learned about machine learning and what that means. So now they're building off on that topic. So throughout this whole lesson, the 5E lesson, they're exposed to different ways, different hands-on activities for understanding neural networks. So the easiest way to think about a neural network, if you're not familiar with it, is it's like your brain, right? That's the goal, to make it similar to your brain. So in this activity, they're going to compare the human brain's biological neural network to an artificial neural network, and then model in ANN and the processes that take place within one. So we'll go to the next slide again. And I think we've had some new people join, so I'll share this real quick. But again, these activity slides are on a separate deck linked in the chat. If you would like to make a copy of them to use on your own, that's totally fine. So this activity, and in our actual guide, there's a video that goes with this. I didn't know why I didn't tie the video in here, but you're going to put students either in a big circle, or you can do separate smaller circles, but the bigger the circle, the bigger the network you're going to see, right? And you're going to have a ball or a roll of string or something, yarn, whatever you want to use. So I'm going to ask a question, like up here, do I have siblings? Or I'm just going to make a statement, I have siblings. And then everybody that has siblings needs to put their hand up as well. So then you pass it off and everybody holds on to their little part of the string, right? So your string goes all the way around. Then whenever you get to your out of options, that person then would make a statement, and we'd see how many connections that makes, so on and so forth. You just try not to go to your nearest neighbor. We always try to pass it around, right? So once you finish that, you do several rounds, however many rounds you want. So like on our example pictures here, right? Sample A is you didn't do very many questions, but maybe, and sample B is you spent all day doing this, right? And you have this massive network, lots of string being used here. But while holding the string at the end, right, you can start going through discussions of what does the string represent, right? It represents all the connections that we have for similar topics. And then you can say, does everyone have the same amount of connections, right? So now you're looking at your string, you can have them count how many times it's been around, how many times they have it, that kind of path, why or why not. And then you can start explaining, like each of you represented a node, and then you can talk about what do you think nodes do, and you can connect this back to the human brain and how our brain makes connections. So just a little hands-on activity to get them started and to get them to understand that there's a lot of stuff going out there, right? So like Rusty just talked about recommender systems, they're taking all sorts of data inputs, right? And making all sorts of connections for why we would want something recommended to us, right? So that's another activity that you can use.
And I love when you get to this big idea, because this really takes those other two big ideas and expands on, this idea of, perceiving, representing, and reasoning, and then learning from those different perceptions and representations. So this is, in my opinion, the progression of the 5 big ideas, when the overarching concepts of AI really start to kind of come together. That these systems, because they can have so many different connections, so many different data points, and so much data that they can actually reference very quickly, that they can really start learning from it. And a great example and a very a practical and now example is this idea of leveraging deep fakes or AI filters. In fact, if you'll see the image underneath deep fakes and AI filters is actually a very recent one. This was from an article launched, I think, just last week. If you guys do utilize TikTok, if you don't, beware, you will get sucked down the TikTok rabbit hole. But this is an example of a new filter called Bold Glamour that was recently launched with TikTok that you cannot tell the difference between a real image and a filtered image. It is so incredibly real and so incredibly accurate because of the use of the AI technology that's being utilized through the filter. And what is basically happening in a very, very basic nutshell is it's referencing all these different data points within that image, making real-time decisions to change that particular pixel down in that image. And because it's operating so quickly, it can change millions of pixels at once in real time to this updated image, and do so in a way that you're not able to detect, the real one from the, updated one. So it's learning, it's interacting, it's perceiving, it's representing, it's reasoning, it's doing all of that in real time when you can't even tell, what's happening, because it's just putting out this image that is so lifelike and real. Conversely, we've looking at, deep fakes and democracy is another big topic you can talk about. Last year, the Tom Cruise impersonator was really big all over TikTok. So there's a lot of different ways that you can support this type of conversation. And it definitely relates, especially those larger or, older audiences, the 9-12 space, to have that conversation of, is this good for our society? Is this bad? What are the pros? What are the cons, etc.
I feel like this has just gone such a long way. I don't know if you remember, Rusty, and I can't think of the name of the program, but like 20 years ago in college, right? There was some computer class I took or something, probably educational technology, I don't remember, but it was some app where you could upload your photo and then you would show it where your mouth was and your eyes, right? And then you could animate it for the most part. And I always thought that was so cool. And then like, this is a whole nother level.
Exactly. And the speed at which the technology advancing is just so incredible. That was just probably a few years ago, that,
right.
excuse me, that we were utilizing these kind of, what now are kind of dumbed down AI filters. But when they first launched, they were, it was working with magic, and now we have something that is, almost literal magic that we're interacting with.
Right.
It's very interesting, very cool time to work with technology, definitely.
For sure. And to the point where you can't always trust everything you see or hear or watch now, because it could be a total fake. So good times. All right. So big idea number 4 is all about natural interaction and how that AI or the intelligent agents or the computers interact with us, right? So this example comes from grades 3-5. It's unit 2, and we're talking about what considerations need to be made when using language and voice recognitions with AI systems. And so there's a couple different activities the students do throughout this. This one is also very music focused and word focused. So a lot of ELA connections in there. And so we'll just go on to the next slide. We don't need to go through all the goals, but do know this is another activity that had to be updated. So we were using MixLab, another Google experiment. They have also shut that one down. So that one it was pretty cool because you could say, I don't even remember, was it bass? And then it would start playing a bass tune, and then you could add to it and like make this whole song by the end of it, right? Okay. So we changed it a little bit. We still have a word activity in the engage section. So this just kind of builds upon that word activity. And Rusty and I lost a lot of time this week playing this game. So just know, once you get started, it's really hard to get off of it. So the students in the engage section of the 5E lesson learn about semantics, and they talk about word connections and how, like some words go together. So they're given like a 1-minute activity of, if I give you the word music, write down every word you can think of that goes with music. And then they take that further and they bring the list down to genre or by musical instrument. Like there's a couple different options we give you, but it's really just to get them to hone in on the fact that everybody will come up with a different list, even though they were given the same topic. And so just imagine how hard that is for a computer to understand all the different words that connect and go together. So they take that further with this activity. So Semantris was created by Google. It's got 2 options to play. Rusty liked the arcade one. He was playing that one. I was playing, I think it was just block one. So think of like, the block one is like Tetris, but with words. And so you get all these blocks that come down, and to clear them, you have to think of another word that goes with a word that's being shown. And then if it's connecting different colors, then it will take it off. And anyways, you have that line at the top that's like, oh, you've made it too far, or whatever. Your blocks have piled up too far. The arcade one is a little bit different in that you have a whole list of words and it will point to one word, and you have to think of something that goes with that word, and then it'll move all the words associated with that to the bottom, and if it's in a certain range, it'll remove those words. And same thing, your words will get built up to the top, and if you hit that line, then you're game over. But just a lot of word connections, and on the arcade one you have to be fast. Like it is timed. I did not like it. It gave me anxiety. So I like the block version.
Yeah,
a little easier.
a lot of pressure.
Yeah, right. It's a lot going on. But anyway, so you get the students to play either in groups or by themselves or as a whole group. It doesn't matter. But then you want to talk to them about, did the computer always select the words you thought it was going to, right? Or did it make that connection? There were sometimes in the arcade one where it would say a word and I would type something and it wouldn't count it as much as I thought it would. And I was like, what the heck? That word goes with it. So the computer has not made the connection between the word I thought made sense and the other words it knows. So, creating all those data systems for it and those data sets. Anyways, then we take that on. So as you start talking about semantics and word meanings and all this stuff, then you can watch this video, which was in our original lesson. So it's still there. Shimon is a singing, songwriting robot who does all sorts of things. But anyways, there's a video on there at the beginning of this webpage that shows him singing, but also has the people behind him talking about how he does what he does and all the AI connections. And so that's kind of cool. You can also find him on Spotify, by the way. So if you want to listen to AI created music, just check Spotify out. They got it. And then you can start connecting the two. Like, so did this AI robot, right, entity, intelligent agent, was the language natural? Did you like listening to his song? Did the lyrics make sense? Like they talk in the video about how he might talk about rain and then he'll go off on a tangent about something about rain and like just the different connections he makes versus what they would try to put together. So anyways, it's kind of fun. Ties in some music concepts there, so you can talk about AI and music as well.
Great. And kind of, weaving this into this, real world discussion, this big idea of natural interaction does kind of take a step back from analyzing how an AI works and looking at how we interact with AI. And a great example of this is one of the biggest applications that we interact with of AI, and that being natural language processing. So most of us utilize Siri or Alexa. I personally get a ton of robocalls, chatbots, daily, but
yes.
This is a very testable, practical, and fun way to demonstrate and interact with AI, in real time. This does also even to those big ideas, especially the fifth big idea we'll touch on in a moment. But it's a really fun, practical way that speaks especially to those, younger audiences, the elementary audiences, of a very an application that interacts with us, on the daily, basically. So, in a daily setting. So, really fun. And you can always just grab your phone and demonstrate it to, the students, of course.
Yes, so much fun. All right. Big idea number 5, last but not least, societal impact. So now you take all those things and understand about AI. And now in every grade band, every unit that we have, the students discuss some form or some way of how this impacts their life. And not only them, but how it can impact others. And is it good or bad? Pros, cons, like this is where they get into the nitty gritty of, are we doing good things with AI or are we not doing good things? So this is from our 912 Unit 2 guide. And how might we design an inclusive AI system? So this is really making it personal for them, and you'll see that on the next slide, but taking the personal experience in and connecting it to exclusion, inclusion, ethics, and bias within AI. So the learning goals for this one, they're going to discuss examples of all of these things, but then also propose solutions around that. So we'll go to the next one. And this is just really a lot of the societal impact lessons, not done on purpose, done without me thinking about it really, but really for the most impact, they're all discussions. There's some sort of discussion happening in this, whether it's group discussion, pair discussion, whole class discussion. It's something that needs to happen, right? You need to get different viewpoints, so it can't be done in just a little bubble. So do know that most of the societal impact lessons involve some sort of discussion. So this one is in pairs, have the students share a time when they felt excluded by another person, rule, or system, and to describe their reaction. Now, this can be done verbally. It can be done through writing if you would prefer, if the students maybe don't want to share it aloud. You can figure out different ways that they come up with these examples, but they do need to think about a time that they felt that way, make it personal for them, and then ask for volunteers to share, or if you have them do it in writing, you can pull from the bucket, have no names on it, that type of thing. And then do other students agree with how that student reacted, right? It's important that they note how they reacted to when they felt excluded. And then for students to go, oh yeah, I would have done the same thing, or maybe you could have done this instead. Because then you can talk about the ethics of that, right? And all the feelings and emotions that come with that. But you also can go back around and say, well, what could have been done differently? How could you have included that person? How could this situation have gone a different path? And then there's an article linked in here that then starts to take this with technology. So Rusty shared the self-driving car earlier. Well, did the car recognize this person or did they not? Did they not recognize them because they had a hoodie over their head and it thought it was a stuffed animal? You know, like there's all different ways to go about talking about this. But try to tie it if you can. If a student shared an example with technology, right? Or maybe they didn't get the filter because it didn't recognize their face or whatnot, you know, like all those different connections, and then start discussing, you know, how is AI biased? How can this kind of stuff happen? And is it good or is it bad? Are there things we can improve on for the experience as well? So yeah, so there you go. There's another activity that you can do.
Excuse me. And I really like finishing this trajectory of these 5 big ideas with this topic. I think this is a very important topic because, you know, when we kind of look back at what we analyzed through these 5 big ideas, we should have a really large, or we should have a very broad but deep understanding of how AI works and how we interact with AI. And now we're taking, 2 steps back, and we're looking at the impact that it's going to have on our communities, and analyzing, are those impacts worth it? Are they good? Are they bad? Are they benefiting us as a society, or are they taking us back? And this is a huge topic when you start analyzing artificial intelligence. And there are so many different examples of this. We, of course, couldn't pick out the best one, but if you just Google, and go down that rabbit hole, you will find so many different articles, so many different opinions of the impact of AI. One example that we just kind of uncovered was this idea of McDonald's leveraging and including AI automated drive-throughs, which is great use of the technology, but what impact negatively is that going to have on our societies? How is that going to impact, future jobs, especially lower wage jobs that may, the workers may not be able to go other places, or, how is that going to save us time? What are those pros and cons? And that's what this big idea really is about, is having those bigger conversations. and getting students to be critical of the technology, because for so long we have just taken technology and just utilized it. Now we're really at that place where we don't have to just take it at face value. We have the ability, especially with our students, to take that step back and analyze and look at it and have those big discussions, because the technology is so advanced, it can really impact us in so many different ways. And we should take a moment to look at those different ways that it is impacting us.
And I'm going to chime in for just a second here. Like we said earlier, technology is constantly evolving, right? So this topic first started, IBM and McDonald's partnered in 2021. And so Rusty and I were looking today, in the most recent article about issues with the drive-through was from last month. And so even though you have this conversation with students maybe 2 years ago, now you've got a different discussion point, same topic, but now you can build on, oh, well, they're finding that the drive-throughs are picking up the second car drive-through too, right? Because McDonald's has two car lanes. And so like that's an issue. And how can you, is that a good issue, a bad issue? How can we fix that issue? So you can really like continue to use almost the same idea, but it's going to have a different impact, as you get further down the road.
Right. And yeah, exactly. And that makes me think of, other, bigger, discussions here. I mean, a few years ago, there was a big discussion around predictive policing, where based on criminal data, they were trying to predict where crime would occur, which has, huge biases, of course, based on that data. Also, facial recognition features, being able to train systems to recognize, all different sorts of features and not just features from, certain, ethnic or, racial groups. But there are a lot of different, different ways that you can kind of tailor this topic, the needs of your students and what you're trying to achieve.
Yeah, for sure. So much to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that is a lot, right? So we have a few ideas to kind of get you started, and on your route. So we'll kind of alternate on these ideas and just provide a little bit more discussion points on, to these different bullet points.
Yeah. So bullet point 1 goes with all things you're adding in that are new, whether it be robotics, talking about AI concepts, if it's a new curriculum, try to tie it in with something you are already doing so it's not daunting and overwhelming. So for example, like we talked about the art connection today. So if you teach art and you teach pixelation and then you want to go into binary, right? Then it kind of ties right in together. I put on there the 5 senses because a lot of perception deals with sensors. So if you're already teaching your students about 5 senses, or they have the background knowledge of 5 senses, tie that into computer sensors and then learning about perception. So all sorts of different ways you can do this, but start small. You don't have to start with a full curriculum. You don't have to start all at once. You don't have to wait until AI standards come out, right? Because we all know it's going to happen at some point. But start small, get the discussions going, even if it's just like pulling up that McDonald's article from last week or last month, right? And being like, oh, what do you guys think about this, right? At least it's getting them exposed. It's getting the ideas going, and then just add in more as you go.
Great. And yeah, to expand on that point, I do really recommend always starting with the basics. And what we mean by that is, providing examples and kid relatable, concepts before diving into these larger ideas of how AI and what AI is actually doing. Provide those examples that give students the ability to relate to the concept. It is a big concept. So stay away from these, images of sci-fi, of, robots or spaceships, or, keep the Star Wars discussion out of the conversation. Although I would like to bring it in, but
That's for May 4th, right?
Yeah, very relatable, and this will help students transition and be able to recognize and understand AI in a easier way. And you give them a better, pathway to understanding these pretty large concepts. So I always recommend, start with, series, start with Netflix. You can make the ties of how that AI is actually working and what it's doing later, but point them to these very small concepts and relatable concepts first. I think that is one of the biggest hurdles, in kind of getting students, excited to understand, these bigger concepts. Just start with the basics and build from there.
Yeah, and so just I think bullet point 3 has already been covered by 1 and 2, but we also did a great job, all right, Rusty, especially on his slides, did a great job of pointing this out in all of the AI and real world slides, right? Students are already exposed to a lot of this. They already know about a lot of it. They just don't think about it. So you're going to have to stop and be like, hey, this is what Suri is, and this is why she does what she, you know what I mean? Like, she doesn't understand your emotion, but she understands your request, and this is why. Like, just break it down for them and use either what you know that you're comfortable with or what they know. Start from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, this is a really fun topic. So have fun with it. In my opinion, utilizing all these different examples of AI, these fun interactive examples. There's so many out there. Experiments, Google Experiments have done a great job curating different AI interactions from different, artists. There's a ton you can work with. There's a lot out there. So just do some exploring. We provide a ton in the curriculum, but they're always changing. There's so much you can work with. So having fun and you really utilizing these different AI interactions will really get the concepts across to the students. So yeah, I think teaching AI should always be kind of a fun first endeavor, in my opinion, because those students are going to gravitate and want to learn, about AI if they're having fun with it, and they definitely can have fun with it. That's kind of an easy onboarding process for sure.
Yeah, and we don't have it on here. I guess we kind of could have put it in the why. So before I do our shameless plug here at the end for sales, I do want to say, just think like at the moment they're consumers of it, right? They might not understand it. They definitely don't create it at the moment for the most part, right? But they will, right? So those kindergartners right now will be doing all sorts of AI stuff and applications when they get out of school at their age. You know what I mean? Like, that's another 20 years from now. They're going to be doing amazing things. So the more you can at least expose them to it and discuss with them, if nothing else, the better off they're going to be as consumers and as creators in their adult life. So set them up for success. Don't shy away from it because it's new for us, right? Like, try to get them going so that they are good citizens at the end of this and use it ethically and are trying to be unbiased with it, right? That's the goal. So our shameless plug is we do have an AI Foundations curriculum. It is K-12. You get all of the guides with the purchase. If you don't want to purchase it, you want to purchase tech, you can also get it for free with any of our tech, or with our class packs, I should say. So if you're interested in that, reach out to Rusty or I. We'll put you in touch with the sales team. That's our shameless plug. We're not going to go into it anymore, but there's that. We will go on to the next slide. And we're going to start gathering your questions. So if you've got any questions, you can put them in the chat. You can put them in the Q&A, either one. We're going to skip ahead real quick while you're doing that, while you're putting in the questions, and just give a plug for our next webinar. I wish Brian could have stayed. We could have had him put in some notes in the chat. Brian's one of our teacher ambassadors that was on here earlier, and he will be joining us next month along with others. And they're going to talk to you all about the program and what they've been doing and the ways they've been using UKITS and UB Tech in their classroom. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully a big round panel. We'll see how many we can get in there, but they're doing some awesome things with students K through 12. And so tying it into all different subjects, and just it's a really well-rounded group this year doing all sorts of things. So we're excited for you guys to hear and see what they've been doing next month. So that's what we'll be doing there. We'll go back to the Q&A slide. If you have any questions, you're welcome to pop them in. We are just right at an hour. So if you need to jump off, thank you again for joining us. It was so great to have you and talk to you about AI and all the fun things that you can do with it. If you are watching the recording again and would like a copy of the activities deck, please send me or Rusty an email. We will send that to you. If you're on the call right now and did not get that link, let us know. We can put it back in the chat. But otherwise, thank you guys so much. Rusty and I will hang out for just a moment in case you need us. But otherwise, everybody else, have a great rest of your day. And we hope to see you next month.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
See ya. All right, I think you're good to stop recording, if nothing else. And then